You just missed one of the best indie metroidvania souls-like games to come out this year. And that's because it was unfortunately released on the exact same day as FromSoft's very anticipated title, Armored Core 6. This amazing game had the misfortune of releasing between some of the biggest and most anticipated titles this year, yet it still manages to be the diamond in the rough and shine brightly in this oversaturated market. Yes, I'm talking about the long-awaited release of Blasphemous 2. The game that made itself known for its really grotesque and disturbing visual art style in the first game is back with a sequel, and it's even weirder this time around, but in a good way. You see, if you've never played the first Blasphemous before, the game is basically this really unique combination of Souls-like aesthetic with Metroidvania gameplay mixed with a lot of religious symbolism. And it all comes together to create this incredibly fun and beautiful looking game that's also really brutally difficult. I'm not gonna lie, I've never played the first Blasphemous before, so I wasn't sure what I would be getting into with the second game. But man, I was just blown back at how good this game is. In the sea of so many amazing AAA games coming out this year, it's pretty easy to get buried underneath the heavy competition. But let me tell you, not only are AAA gamers eating good this year, but indie game enjoyers are also eating good because there are so many hidden gems that have been released recently. Unfortunately though, I feel like a lot of people will miss out on some of these amazing titles because they're just overshadowed by some of the mega giant games releasing this year. But fortunately for you, that's why I'm here to tell you just how fantastic Blasphemous 2 really is. Now the biggest reason as to what makes Blasphemous 2 so good is the extremely addicting gameplay. This game takes inspiration from the classic Metroidvania titles that we all know well and love, while also adding a bit of the Souls-like elements that the Souls games are known for, like bonfires and brutally unforgiving difficulty. This game lets you know right from the start that it's not going to hold your hand and you're going to die a lot because most enemies will kill you if you're not careful. And in true Souls-like fashion, I've died a lot more times to the normal monsters than I like to admit. Like, some of these sections were really tough and kicked my butt too many times for me to count. There was this one enemy gauntlet section that I was legitimately stuck on for about an hour and a half. Yeah, these basic enemies were kicking my ass for over an hour because they were just doing so much damage to me. Thankfully though, through sheer tenacity and stubbornness, I managed to metaphorically smash my head against this wall of difficulty until I eventually beat it. And it was the most satisfying feeling in the world to beat this section, even though it was probably intended for me to explore a bit more and upgrade my character before tackling this part of the game. Whatever, it is what it is. You can either choose to explore the map and find upgrades, or you can simply barrel through the main story. This game gives you the freedom to choose how you want to play and where you want to go, and I think that's really cool. Speaking of difficult enemies, the bosses in this game are also no joke because they can and will fold you like a lawn chair. There are a decent number of bosses in this game, and each one of them are great in their own way with their own unique themes and gimmicks that all make them so memorable to fight. Like the Ornstein and the Lesmes and Infanta fight, where you have to deal with both bosses at the same time. Or the really cool Odin boss fight who doesn't ever really say a single word, he just immediately fights you. And I just love the straightforwardness of this boss, no words ever needed, just straight to throwing hands. Those are just some examples of the really interesting bosses in this game, and most of them are no pushovers either because a lot of them gave me a really hard time. These bosses will truly put your skills to the test to see if you really master the mechanics of the game. Like the Ramadez boss fight that makes you utilize the wall jump ability to dodge his charge attack, or the Odin boss fight that makes you utilize the double jump to dodge his high tides. Each of these bosses will prepare you for the final boss fight where everything you've learned in the game so far is stretched to their very limits, and I love it. But enough about the bosses, what about the Metroidvania-like gameplay that this game is so heavily inspired off of? Well, it's really addicting because there are so many useful things in this game that you'll end up wanting to collect absolutely everything. You see, the world of Blasphemous 2 is really big, with there being so many interesting different places and biomes for you to explore. And explore I did, because this was one of those few instances where I tried to go for 100% map completion because hunting down collectibles was just so fun to do. And the level design is top tier in this game because each of the areas are expertly interconnected with each other, giving you multiple different ways to enter and exit each of the areas, while also making backtracking not feel as boring. The best part about this is that not only is exploration fun, but you're also rewarded for going out of your way to look for all the hidden items and collectibles, because they give you really useful combat and utility upgrades like health increases or the ability to double jump. Upgrades like these that let you go back to old areas and access even new secret parts of the area that you previously couldn't access before. Being able to do little stuff like this makes exploring the map so much more fun to do because it rewards you with substantial gameplay improvements that makes the game a lot easier to play. Enemies that were once incredibly difficult for me became a joke after I did some exploration and upgraded my stats a bit. And speaking of upgrades, Blasphemous 2 features multiple weapons that all cater to their own unique playstyles, like the flail if you want to trade some mobility for more damage, or the rapier if you want to trade damage for more mobility. But me personally, I like to have a bit of both damage and mobility in my gameplay, so I of course gravitated towards the sword playstyle. I love how this game has multiple weapons to suit your preferred playstyle, and what's really cool is that they also have their own special mechanics and abilities that you can unlock through the robust skill trees that each individual weapon boasts. Not only that, but there's also a whole plethora of powerful magic spells in the game to use in tandem with your weapons. And some of these spells you can get are really overpowered, like there's one that lets you stop time for a few seconds. Or one where you can summon a huge pillar of light around you that deals a boatload of damage. There's just so many spell and weapon combinations that you can bring in your loadouts that you can really customize your build to your liking, and I think that's what this game does really well. Now, I can't talk about the really smooth gameplay without mentioning just how beautiful and disturbing the 2D pixel world of Blasphemous is. This game has an interesting art direction, to say the least. If you've never played the first Blasphemous before, then you'll probably be highly disturbed by some of the imagery in this game when you encounter it for the first time. I like to think that I'm pretty desensitized to weird and unusual imagery in video games, but some of the stuff in this game had even me doing a double take because they're just that weird. The entire world of Blasphemous is just this grim, dark setting where everyone is always suffering from something and pretty much everything dead or alive is trying to kill you. And I think this is where the Souls-like comparison comes from, because Blasphemous feels just as bleak and just as destitute as the settings in Dark Souls. And while the art team has managed to make this world heavily inspired off the Souls games, they've also managed to add their own flavor to it with the Catholic Spanish symbolism woven into every inch of the game. All of it combined together to make such a memorable looking world with a whole bunch of hidden lore that you can discover through items and environmental storytelling. So let's talk about lore and storytelling, but what is Blasphemous' story really about though? Well, in this game you play as the penitent one, who is just awoken from a long slumber in order to save the world, I guess. Then after the tutorial boss, this lady descends from the heavens in order to tell you that it's your mission to stop the birth of the new god or something. Then you're just let go to do your own thing. To be honest, I really have no idea what the rest of the story is about because most of the characters either just give a really long exposition about their backstory, or they just go off on a really long side tangent talking about who knows what. Either way, none of the dialogue in this game made sense to me, but for the lore enjoyers out there, you'll find that Blasphemous has a lot of really interesting world building here. And the cool thing about these types of games is that you don't really need to understand what the story is about to enjoy it. The gameplay itself more than makes up for the hard to follow story that's really more so told through item descriptions and level design rather than actual NPCs. You'll find that there's a lot more to this game than meets the eye when you delve into this dark and disturbing world of Blasphemous, and I find that really cool. Overall, Blasphemous 2 is pretty much the perfect combination of metroidvania and Souls-like games in a neat little indie package. It does pretty much everything it sets out to do really well, while also going above and beyond what I could ever have expected from a small little indie game. This was my first time getting into this series, so I didn't know what I should be expecting, but this game completely astounded me with its really smooth and tight gameplay, and the really interesting and dark take on the Spanish Catholicism aesthetic that just makes me want to learn more about this world. Both of these combined already make Blasphemous an extremely solid title, but what really elevates this game to the next tier of greatness isn't any gameplay or visual aspects, but the music. The music in this game is so good, especially the Spanish guitar parts that really cement this game as one of the best indie games to come out this year. But that's just me, what do you think? Do you agree or disagree? Let me know down below and make sure to like, comment, subscribe for more reviews in the future. See ya.